Okay. Um, and so, okay, we're going to start. It looks like we're starting with the introduction of new commissioners.
Maybe Najla, you can just introduce yourself really quick and then we can go on.
Sure. Yeah, I am currently the chair of the commission. I was the vice chair and took over a couple of months ago when the current chair stepped down from the commission. Well, he didn't step down, he just didn't reapply. His term expired. I am an academic. I've been teaching in business, economics, and politics for 15 years. And I'm also a local landlord. And I have real estate background and experience. So that's my quick intro. Who should go next?
Oh, I'll introduce myself as well. For those of you that don't know me, Lauren Travis, I serve as a staff liaison for this Commission on Sustainability. I am the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the City of Bloomington. And normally we would have our council appointee, Matt Flaherty, but he's not able to join us tonight. He has a personal engagement. And then anyone else that's been serving on the commission so far that would like to introduce themselves can jump in as well.
Yeah, I'm happy to go next. Sorry, I'm just not on camera tonight, but my name's Samantha Ginther, and I've been on the commission just about a year now. I'm also part of the waste reduction working group, so happy to talk about that when we get to that section. But yeah, I work for IU Ventures here in Bloomington. We're an affiliate of Indiana University, and we support IU affiliated startups. And then outside of that, just pursuing sustainability in my personal life. And so that was my motivation for getting on the commission, to learn more about that and learn more about how to further sustainability in Bloomington.
Thanks, Samantha. So it looks like we are down to just new members. Who wants to go first?
Hi, I'm Alicia. I can go.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, nice to meet everybody virtually. I grew up in Bloomington actually, and I got both my degrees at IU. My undergrad was in fine arts and my grad degree is in user experience design. But then after I finished school, I went to New York and I did design world for a while. Then I got tired of that. And so I moved to California and did farming for 5 years. So I was basically just a farmer. And I really loved it. And also got involved in a couple of zero waste initiatives in California. And I was also serving on this similar commission like this for the county that I lived in California. And we did like greenhouse gas emissions accounting and stuff like that. And let's see, what else have I done? Oh, and I'm also, so obviously I moved back to Bloomington because California was on fire. And it's nice to be back in Bloomington. I like it here. And I just recently started working for a company that does digital design services for the government. And they're actually located, they have an office in Bloomington. It's called Metro Star. So that's another thing that I'm doing. And I'm also working for a startup that's trying to increase sustainability in the food supply chain across like the whole supply chain. It's a startup and I'm kind of just like advising them. So I think that's everything. But I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you on board. It sounds like you can add a lot in your with your background, especially maybe with your farming background.
Yes.
I mean, I know you were joking when you said just a farmer, but I'm actually trying to become just a farmer these days. I'm putting all my time into gardening this spring. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, being able to just, when I said just, I just meant I actually got to spend like most of my time farming. Like I didn't have to do other things,
Right.
which is actually what you need to do. You have to spend all of your time farming if you want to do it.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's great.
Great. Welcome.
Thanks.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'm happy to go. Hi, my name is Christy Anderson. I think I'm probably listed somewhere as Christina if I go by Christy. I am a researcher in Indiana University in the Department of Health and Wellness Design, although before that I'd kind of done work in analytics in public K-12 education. And then my master's was in natural resources with a kind of specialty in environmental education. So I kind of broadly cover a lot of things related to how people interact with the outdoors, especially in like a leisure, recreation, and education setting. So I'm lucky because a lot of my time I get to kind of go on a hike around Bloomington and say that I'm doing background research for work. So that's you'll see me out on the trails a lot. But I'm excited to join and listen to see what you all have been working on recently and how I can kind of aid those efforts.
Thanks, Christy. I just wanted to say thank you. My name is Johnna Mcgee. I've been on the commission since 2014, although I'm not currently an officer. Thank you very much and welcome.
And then I think we have Joseph and Colin too. And then Nolan, I think, join and can introduce himself at some.
Yeah, I can go ahead. I'm Nolan. I could turn my camera on, but you wouldn't want to see that. I am the president of the Monroe County Environmental Commission, and am I appointed to this board by that. So, hey everyone.
Thanks, Nolan.
Yeah, I can go ahead and take next, if that's all right. My name is Joseph Winia, and I'm actually from the city of Grand Rapids in West Michigan. And my academic and professional background are actually in software engineering, but in the search for a personal mission and in the discovery of the current state of ecological affairs, I brought about a sharp transition last year into the realm of sustainability. And that is ultimately what brought me to the city of Bloomington and this commission. So I also look forward to making contributions to that end and am really grateful for the opportunity to serve on it. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Colin Murphy. I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area, but I'm here as a first-year student at the at SPIA. So I'm doing my MPA degree, and it's great to be here. In terms of my professional experience, I've worked in pretty much every aspect of the food system, from distribution to packaging to farmers markets, and even in the kitchen. So that's kind of formed the bulk of my work experience. I also spent a year and a half working in tech over in the Bay Area, and I spent 1 year working for the Oakland City Council doing writing policy for a council member.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that was a great experience. In terms of my interests, and right now I'm a research assistant working on actually studying municipal climate action plans across the country for an IU professor, first year professor. In terms of my interests, I would say, I've been organizing for climate justice and regenerative organic food systems for more than a decade now. And I guess I'm especially interested in climate justice, agroecology, and ecological economic development. So it's a pleasure and a privilege to be here. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Colin. I think Lee or Marnina or Jaylyn, we haven't heard from.
Lee's here for public comment. Marnina's in my department. And then I think Jalen's also here for public comment. So I'll pull up the agenda really quick and if we
Are we done with introductions?
those are, we have 4 new commissioners, yes.
All right. So do we need to do, do we need to do roll call, even though we sort of just introduced ourselves?
I think as long, yeah, so I don't see, Anna emailed me that she couldn't come, Matt isn't here, and then Jarrett will be joining us hopefully soon, but we'll be late. So we can move to approval of the agenda if you want.
Great. Does anyone motion to approve the agenda?
Sure, I'll motion.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you. The agenda is approved. Public comment. We have a couple people here for public comment. You have 3 minutes per person maximum. And who would like to start? Lee, do you want to start since your microphone's already on, it looks like?
Sure. You say I have 3 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, you can go over actually because we don't have that many people to speak, so.
Okay. I thought I thought you said 15 minutes, but that's fine. I'll
Oh yeah,
make
sorry,
it.
that's for the entire public comment period.
I'll be as brief as I can. I'm going to read a couple things, so bear with me on that. Thank you very much for inviting me to your meeting. I come asking the commission to endorse a specific piece of carbon pricing legislation. Its name is the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. I'm part of a citizens climate lobby. We do what the name implies. We lobby Congress to act on climate change. I guess in the 4 years I've been involved, we've had meetings with Representative Hollingsworth or his staff about 10 times, either in Washington, D.C. or locally or via Zoom. We'll meet with him again in a few weeks. The meeting hasn't been scheduled yet, but we will be meeting with him. And we believe that he is one of a handful of Republican congressmen who might endorse this legislation. And that would be very important. I noticed one of the Bloomington Climate Action Plan, the draft of 2020 is to support decarbonization of the local electricity grid. And while there are a lot of local efforts that can be made, and we ought to make them as best we can, I personally have done as much as I can, but individual and local efforts go only so far toward the nation's 2050 net zero carbon goal. The quickest and most effective national policy to put a price on carbon is the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. Let me explain the basic elements of this legislation. First, a fee is imposed on fossil fuels at the point of extraction, that is for coal, oil, and gas at the mine or wellhead. The price that's imposed the first year is $15 per CO2 ton equivalent. And every year after that, it's increased by $10 a ton. So it starts slow. And we believe it's important to start slow so that businesses and individuals can sort of come up to speed on the idea that prices are increasing. But it ramps up the price quite quickly. And by 2030, the price would be in the range of about $120 per CO2 ton equivalent. And research that's been done, economic modelers have done a lot of research on what the impact of this bill and other policies might be. And that $120 price in 2030 will put us directly on the path toward the 2050 net zero goal. The second feature of the legislation is that all of the revenue, all of the net revenue would be returned to households. And each adult in a household would get one share, and each child a half a share. And this is built into the policy in order to help offset the increase in prices that undoubtedly will happen with a carbon fee. The third part of the legislation is a border adjustment. And that is to protect businesses, our US businesses, so that if our businesses produce products and export them to a country without a carbon tax, they will be at a disadvantage because the price of their manufacture will be higher. So they would actually get compensation for those exports. Conversely, if we import products from countries without a carbon tax, we would impose a tariff to make up the difference, again, to protect the US businesses. And just as a parenthetical note, the European Union is about to impose a border adjustment. And if the US does not legislate a carbon price, that the EU and any businesses doing business with the EU are going to be penalized. So the border adjustment is an important part of the legislation. And let me just go through a couple, a few reasons why this is a good piece of legislation.
Lee, can I ask one
Yes.
very quick question?
You can ask any questions you want.
Sorry, what's the energy sources this is on, or is it any, which you said this is going to be put on when something's extracted, when the resource is extracted?
Coal, oil, and gas.
Coal, oil, and natural gas. Thank
Yes.
you. Okay,
Yes.
I missed that
You're
part.
welcome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me just talk about the equity issue. We think this is a very equitable piece of legislation. Other bills which impose a carbon price use the revenues for other programs like infrastructure or research and development. But we believe that the Energy Innovation Act serves as a protection for low-income families whose cost of living, of course, will go up with increased prices. About two-thirds of US families would either break even or come out ahead with dividends offsetting higher prices. And this is, of course, an important difference for all citizens and Indiana citizens as well. It's an effective policy. It would take hold very quickly, especially in the health sector, because the first 5 years of increasing the carbon price would basically put coal out of business. And coal, as you probably know, is the chief source of a lot of heart, lung, asthma problems, and certainly deaths. So the speed that it's going to be effective, particularly in the health sector, is important. It's good for the economy. Contrary to a lot of the the opposition to a carbon price, which is people say, well, it will hurt the economy. And economic modelers have shown with many studies that that's not true. GDP will be about even, jobs will be about even, although we think jobs might actually be increased a bit, and all while stabilizing the climate and bringing about health benefits. It's a durable policy. As we know, I'm comparing it now to regulations. And we know the regulations come and go with different administrations, but acts of Congress are durable. And they're not challengeable in the courts as regulations are, as we know regulations have been. So the carbon price has a very good chance for bipartisan support in Congress for that reason.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Fire away.
Let us know what you're asking us to do.
And your timeline, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are three asks.
Yeah.
One is to actually, as a group, endorse the act publicly via an endorsement website. And the second is to actually write a letter explaining your reasons for your endorsement and sending that to Representative Hollingsworth and the two senators, Brown and Young. The third, probably a bigger lift for you, would be to adopt a formal resolution endorsing.
And what's your timeline?
Well, as I said, we think that particularly with Representative Hollingsworth, he actually has been very positive in our meetings with him, and I think supports the idea of carbon pricing, but he needs a push to actually become a sponsor of a specific carbon pricing bill, and that's sort of the timing issue. We'd like to push him as much as we can, particularly before our next meeting with him in a few weeks.
What's the date?
The date? I don't know what date you're
I'm
asking.
just wondering if we have time to vote on it during our next meeting, or if it's something, if we'll have time to.
You absolutely do have
Okay,
that kind of time.
it'll be in a month, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, that'd be perfect timing.
That'll give us time, that'll give all of us time to read the legislation in depth and ask any questions. But,
Yes.
I mean, it sounds like something that I at least would be willing to support. I don't know about everyone else on the commission. Can you give me more detail on what did you say is how you're going to be compensating for how prices are going to be raised? Like inflation?
Yes, of course, virtually all products in the economy are tied in one way or another to carbon, the use of carbon. And I mean, and so the price of goods and services will go up. And so the revenue from the fee imposed on carbon extraction is going to be returned directly to households. And
okay. So you're
right,
actually,
rather than spending it on something else.
so you're taking, I get it. You're literally taking the money that the carbon taxes that they're paying, and then you're going to be using that in some kind of a tax refund or something to give it back to people.
We call it a dividend. Yes, exactly.
I see. I'm sorry. I'm obviously not an accountant. Okay.
No, I think Lauren shared the URL to that to help you explain more.
No, but I get the gist. That's all I was wondering. Yeah, that sounds really exciting. I'm really
I think
excited
what
about
Lee is
that.
asking for is for us to, as a commission, to support this, to formally support this endorsement, which we can do online. And I don't know if you'll, I think Lauren shared it with everybody before this meeting, but yeah, I think what Lee is asking for us to do is to formally endorse this.
You mean each of us individually or as a group? Right, yeah, so I was actually thinking, Lee, when you were talking, I would be happy to write a letter addressed to Mr. Hollingsworth on behalf of the commission related to this legislation, if everyone is interested in it.
Well, I think I think
And I was
he'd
gonna
be
say,
both
I actually,
happy if we're personally doing it and as a commission doing it.
yeah, and if there's a place on the website for us to personally do it too, that's great. Yeah, anyway, by coincidence, I got a letter from Trey Hollingsworth a couple months ago congratulating me on my visit to, I did a Mandela Fellowship with the State Department to Africa last year. And I got a congratulatory letter from Trey, and he said to reach out soon. So this could be a great opportunity to reach out to Trey, take him up on his offer.
Sounds excellent.
Thank you for coming to talk to us tonight, Lee. I will also resend the information that you sent about more about the act so that people can review it, especially if they haven't been on the commission before as well.
And if you have a discussion of it and you want me at your next meeting to answer questions, I'd be happy to.
I appreciate that. Thank you for spending part of your evening with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Yeah,
Thank you, but
Steve.
I think,
Very exciting.
what is the next move for us to do as a commission? Because I think we need, are we going to endorse this?
From what I understand, what Lee's asking for is to have a letter drafted up. That's probably something we should, I think we should probably each read it and kind of talk about any concerns we have first, right? And in the meantime, I can maybe start a template and we can just start working it in as it goes and try to have something. We're going to try to have everything done and wrapped up with a bow by
Where
next
does that
month.
letter go?
Vote on it. To
Point of
approve it.
order.
Where does that letter go when we write that to, where's that letter go, I guess?
Nigel, I have a point of order.
Oh, sure. Joseph,
believe
you
it-
have a question? Yeah.
Point of order, actually, with respect to the procedure, we're still in the public comment section of the agenda. And also as such, I think we should allow for other public comments before taking this up as a matter of business. And also, I believe it would definitely be best done through a motion in the new business section.
All right, sounds good.
And I also want
Okay,
to
well,
point out that Mr. Murphy had his hand raised, and I would think it's reasonable
Sure.
for him to have the opportunity to ask a question to Mr.
Yeah,
Ryan,
yeah, we
if
don't
he
want
is.
anyone to be rushed, for sure.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Murphy, you had a question for Lee?
Yes, thank you, Nigel. I was just going to ask to clarify if we were having debate during this meeting on this particular item, which
No, we're not. It's just Nolan asked like what the next steps were. So I was trying to, finish it up so we could move on to the next speaker. So, okay, thank you, Lee, very much for your comment. And me and Lauren will be in touch after the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And our next public speaker or speaker from the public is Jaylyn, I believe.
Hi, I'm Jaylyn. I'm currently a student at Indiana University. I'm here to observe, basically. I'm currently in this course called Smart Cities, and as part of like the requirement, we have to, of course, go to a meeting and just observe and see things that, we could probably implement in certain project ideas that we have for the course, and just ways to improve Bloomington and smart cities in general. So,
All right, thanks, Jaylyn. is this the only meeting you're going to be sitting in on, or will you sit in on future meetings as well?
I have no idea right now.
Okay. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you. Okay. Anyone else from the public? Would anyone else from the public like to speak? Okay. Lost the agenda. Okay. Next is report from the chair. So I'll go ahead and talk about what I think are I guess. Sorry, make sure I'm doing this in the right section. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and talk about that we have several openings for leadership roles in this group. So we have 4 new members, and we have some things that are going to be up in the air to be voted on. Hopefully in our next meeting, we could vote to approve people in these new leadership roles. That would be excellent. The other area where we have that people could be thinking about where they want to participate is in working groups. We currently have, I think, just one. Did we decide last time there was just one working group? We're going to definitely continue into next month, I think. So we have, when we can definitely take new ideas for working groups. So I would just encourage everyone, the open positions for leadership roles are chair, vice chair, and secretary. We also technically have a treasurer position, but we haven't had a treasurer. I don't think we've had a treasurer for a while, have we, Lauren? And we don't have any funds we have not been administering funds.
Yeah, so there are 4 roles: chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Treasurer, it's sort of as needed. If we, as a commission, were to apply for a grant, that would be something that the treasurer would administer. In the meantime, there typically haven't been many expenditures, especially since things have been virtual, but in the future, if there was an event or something, then that would be something that the treasurer would be overseeing.
Right, so I'm going to suggest we don't worry too much about a treasurer role until we need one. Unless anyone thinks that's that we may be needing one in the future. Let's talk about that. Does anyone think, what do you guys think about that? Not having a treasurer? I know we didn't have one the last year. If we did, I don't think there was anything for them to do.
As a point of order, I think that if we were to debate the concept, it should be also proposed in a motion and debated and in the new business section of the agenda rather than during the report.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. So yeah, just to wrap up, I'd like everyone to be thinking about where they can do the most good on the commission, hopefully through one of these leadership roles. I'm happy to serve again as chair or vice chair if needed, but I'm also very eager to have some fresh young blood step up and take over that role. And secretary is a role I'm not specifically suited for because I'm not great at taking notes. And the person who is secretary is the person who's responsible for taking accurate notes for the meetings. That's their main job is that record keeping. And so yeah,
a comment.
You want to add anything, Johnna?
Yes, I was just going to say, as far as secretary goes, since the meetings are recorded, we've had a lot of secretaries who either did it from the recording or went back to double check in the recording, so you don't necessarily have to focus on it completely. Just as a secondary comment, I would say, as far as the treasurer goes, it's probably the least important role to concentrate on. That's just a comment I was going to make. Concentrate on billing. Thanks, Nejla.
All right. So I don't think we need necessarily to, have discuss that too much at this meeting, but maybe when we get to new business, we can discuss whether or not we want to actually have a treasurer this year. And if everyone can just let us know if they're interested in running for any of the positions, that would be perfect. So yeah, that's it for the report from the chair. I'll go ahead and talk about the resolution, I suppose, since Matt's not here. The report for council ex officio. Do you want me to talk about that, or Lauren, did you want to?
Maybe you can, maybe I'll just do my report first, and then that can be an
Sounds
announcement.
good.
That's okay. So first of all, welcome to our new members. I'm just going to cover a couple of things that are upcoming between this meeting and the next one. The first is just another reminder announcement that about the partnership with the district about rain barrel and compost promotion. I'm happy to share with our new members. We've got a site set up to help people purchase, if they're interested, rain barrels and compost facilities to be able to compost on site. And so the ordering deadline for that is April 5th, so that people can pick them up both at Switchyard and the district later in April. So I will circulate that again, especially for those that may be interested or know someone that may be interested in purchasing one. This is important because we know that out of our waste stream, about 40% of what ends up getting landfilled is compostable. The second announcement or report from me is that the final version of the climate action plan will be presented to council on April 21st. That's the day before Earth Day. I will circulate the final copy of the report when it was sent to council so that you can check it out, and you're welcome to attend on that date if you're interested. There will be an opportunity as well in front of council, I think, to make comment. And then I had Earth Care Indiana, which is a nonprofit in town, sent me an announcement about an event that they will be holding on April 27th, which is virtual. And there is a speaker coming to talk about impacts of climate change. And I will also send more information about that to all of you. And then finally, just a ongoing announcement that our department is continuing to accept nonprofit applications for our new solar and energy efficiency loan program. So in February, we had a webinar about it, and you can find it on the sustainability page. And it's open to any nonprofits, medical facilities, libraries, or grocery stores, and with a focus really if you're mission oriented, not for profit, and eligible expenses include solar energy efficiency projects. And so the first step would be someone contacting me with any questions that they might have, and then as filling out an intake form. So if you happen to volunteer, or you serve on the board of a nonprofit and are interested in getting the word out on that, then be happy about that. And then I have another something for a new business when we get down to it. But does anyone have any questions about any of those items? All right. So like I mentioned, our council member is Matt Flaherty, and he will be able to join us at the next meeting. So I think we're down to other announcements if anyone has them, including new members.
I'm gonna just talk about the resolution. Is now a good time to talk about that? Or should I wait for new business? That's not new business. Anyway,
Yeah, you can do it as a report from the chair, and it's
yeah. Okay,
it's fine
good.
to talk about it. I wouldn't worry so much about,
I'm trying to stay on topic on the agenda. Yeah, I just wanted to add, since Matt's not here, is that he is working to get the housing resolution that we passed at the last meeting presented to the city council. He's working to get on the agenda, And apparently it's just taking a while because the chair of the council, I'm sure that's not the right title, but something like that, the chair of the, what's the right title, Lauren? Matt's waiting to get approval from the chair of the council.
President, yeah.
Yeah, the president, thank you. From the president of the council. So it's just that, and good news, the commission or the council on aging, or commission on aging in Bloomington is interested in endorsing our resolution as is, and they're voting on that in their meeting today. They should be voting on that today in their meeting to endorse this housing resolution. And then they also plan to write a similar or some type of housing resolution that is similar related to Housing First. And then they're going to ask us to endorse that. So that's that turned out to be a positive development in our relationship with another commission on the housing resolution. Okay, so moving on to announcements.
I do have an announcement that I would like to make. I'm sorry. I yield to Mr. Murphy, who has his hand raised.
Oh yeah, he does.
Thank you, Joseph. I was wondering, would it be possible to make that resolution available? Because I personally haven't seen it just yet. Out of curiosity, because
Yeah, you mean make it available after the meeting or right now?
Oh, whenever it's convenient, but I would be interested in looking at it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a Housing First resolution, and I can bring it up right now. It's probably better, since it's already been passed, it's probably better to send it out after the meeting, if that's okay. Just because it is fairly detailed and I don't want to take too much time, reading over it or going over it in the meeting. And since it's something we already passed it last time, so there's not, even if we did debate it, we can't change anything at this point.
Oh, sure, yeah, and I was just curious, really, to
yeah. Oh, yes, and that is definitely something I'll send it out right after this. Thanks for asking about that. Thank you. Okay, any other announcements?
Yeah, I would like to make an announcement actually on behalf of the Citizens Advisory Committee, which for new members or those not in Bloomington for long is the Monroe County District's Municipal Solid Waste Management Department. And there's a Citizens Advisory Committee that serves as advisors to the board in matters of policy and budget. And right now the district is in the process of creating a new 5-year management plan as required by Indiana state law. And as the time on the preceding management plan has long since lapsed. So all of the meetings are open to the public, and there are also seats available on the Citizens Advisory Committee if anyone's interested in joining that. One of my particular interests is waste management within the realm of sustainability. So I just want to mention that all of the meeting dates and times and the links to the Zoom sessions are all available on the district's website, which I will put in the chat right now. And typically they're on Monday. There are subcommittee meetings taking place for specific topics on the management plan. Those are being held generally on Monday evenings around 6 p.m. And then the Citizens Advisory Committee itself meets monthly on the third Thursday at 5:15 p.m. And all of those details are on the public info page of the Go Green District website. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to field them. Otherwise, the district site has a lot of information on it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other announcements? All right, working group updates. Should we hear from the any updates from waste reduction?
I think waste reduction didn't end up meeting. I wasn't able to, I don't think they had a meeting at all. I wasn't able to go.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies for that.
I can touch on that. I know Samantha had mentioned that she intended to. I'll give you the opportunity, Samantha, if you're still available. And if not, oh, go ahead, Samantha.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's not helpful that I'm not on camera. Yeah, happy. I just meant to more so welcome the new members too, if they wanted to join the Waste Reduction Committee or any of the other committees. And I know during new business, we'll kind of talk about what those committees might look like going forward. So yeah, just
Working.
sorry, what was that, Najla?
Sorry, the working groups.
Yes, working groups. Sorry. Thank you. So yeah, we have a small group of us who've been working on different areas in terms of waste reduction, so that we've targeted restaurants, trying to help them come up with solutions. And we've done a little bit of surveying restaurants to see who is focusing on like compostables and recycling within their restaurants. So happy to rope anyone in on that. And then I'll let Joseph talk about kind of the work he's doing on the apartment side in terms of composting and recycling there too. So yeah, just wanted to let anyone know you're more than welcome to join. Anna, who's not here tonight, has kind of been leading our group, but Joseph, Jarrett, and Johnna and myself are all on the group. We'd love to have you. Thanks.
Thanks, Samantha. I will quick note that with respect to what Samantha had referenced, I've been heading up the apartment outreach aspect of that working group, because it's a known fact that in the city of Bloomington, the apartment recycling community is grossly underserved, because the city itself only provides the single stream recycling service to less than multiple family units, so less than 4 occupants per unit. And all of the larger occupancies are managed by private haulers and don't necessarily have competitive pricing for providing recycling. So the goal has been to send out a survey, or we've been in the process of sending out surveys to multifamily housing units within the city limits to ascertain what their hurdles are in getting recycling and who has it, who doesn't, in order to target maximum impact facilities, and also to learn about their stance on on-site composting, to see if there are avenues to divert that waste from or divert that stream from landfilling on site as much as possible. So I would also, it's been quite a project and has yielded some pretty interesting information already, but I would definitely be interested in anyone's participation on that project as well. And I believe if everyone doesn't have it already within the new member group, there is a drive that the commission uses. And I've actually been volunteering with the commission for the preceding several months. So I already have been involved in that. And that's where the data lives from the result of those surveys, if you were interested in viewing it. So maybe, I don't know, Lauren or Najla, if you are.
I'll make sure they're added. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So yes, as Samantha mentioned, you'd be welcome to join us in that endeavor. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and I just realized the housing resolution is not in our drive, so I'll upload that after the meeting and email it out to everyone so that especially our new members can give it a read. Okay, thank you for that update on waste reduction. So yeah, do you guys, is there anything else you expect to take on in the waste reduction? I suppose the new members always could offer their own ideas as well. So any other last pitches you want to make for the waste reduction group, or does anyone have any questions about it? Okay, great. And everyone can be kind of thinking of those areas where you think we might want to add another working group or so. We've had up to 3 in the past. It's probably a good idea to keep it to under 3, just because when we've had it in the past, when we tried more than that, it kind of got a little unwieldy, especially since we don't have that many members. So anyway, we could probably add 2 more working groups. So be thinking, I guess, of, what those kind of policy areas are that you're interested in, or just, other types of, where you think our community needs to go. Where do you think this commission needs to do the most work for our community? Okay. Anything else on working groups? All right, moving to new business. I'll go ahead and talk about the leadership roles once again. We've got chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and does anyone know right now that they definitely are willing and able to run for any of those positions or volunteer for them? I mean, usually we don't have, yeah, anyway, is anyone interested in volunteering for those positions right now?
To ask a clarifying question, so these are, I'm looking at the bylaws and I'm familiar with this. They're 1-year terms, and like, is there like a period at which they begin and end? Like, is it February to February, or what that looks like?
That's a good question. Do you know the answer, Lauren? Is it a standard?
Yeah, so the terms typically align with the commission membership. So most people's terms, the terms end on January 31st, which is why this March meeting, there's a lot of new members because people's terms expired, and then it took a little bit of time to do remote interviews. So you obviously, it's a volunteer role, so you serve as long as you're willing, but it's better for continuity to have you serve a whole year if you're willing to.
So roughly a 1-year commitment. Yeah.
It's also your first meeting too, so if you need the opportunity to check out the bylaws as well, it's not just something to think about as well.
Yeah, well, and the job of the president is, to run the meetings, to communicate with members, to organize the Google Drive, do most of the executive functions. The vice chair, we can debate it if we want to. We can debate what the roles should be of the chair versus the vice chair. But what we've done in the past has been the chair and vice chair just talk to each other and decide what they want to do. And we don't have it like laid out in a formal way. That's what we did before. And so basically last time, like I said, we just kind of would pass it off to whoever was available. So, yeah.
And I did want to point out, actually, Lauren, about your remark, the bylaws indicate that the vote takes place during the annual meeting, and I believe that was in February, right? But it was postponed because of the arrival of the new members. So in general, that would mean that the term would be held until the next annual meeting unless we made an amendment to the bylaws.
Yeah, so the quote unquote annual meeting has been postponed because of vacancies, so that is correct.
And I also wanted to note, Nigel, as you were describing the positions, there's also the co-chairs possibility.
Yes, that is a possibility to have co-chairs instead of a chair and vice chair. Last time, what we decided was we'll see who's interested in being any kind of a chair, and then let those people decide what kind of relationship they prefer to have. And last time, Joseph and I both preferred the chair, vice chair, so that's what we went with. And I've done co-chairing before, and that's something I'm also available and flexible to do. Like I said, I actually think it would be better for the commission to have new leadership, but if needed, I'm always willing to step up and help too. All right, so if anyway, hopefully everyone can be thinking about those roles and how they, in what capacity they can serve in those leadership roles while they're on the commission. So then new business. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I had one point of new business potentially. So there's been some discussion on a previous meeting about doing a composting webinar. I did want to point out that next month is Earth Day, and the sort of global Earth Day organization has picked the theme of Restore Our Earth as the theme. And there are some resources available for holding digital events if that's something anyone's interested in doing as a commission. We have some precedent in holding either like a speaker or, we could invite someone to speak around the time of Earth Day. Our next meeting will be in April. So it could be either during the meeting or at a different time, depending on if you're interested in organizing it. I will also send that along as a resource if anyone's interested in combining those two things. If there's a potential of combining that idea about doing a composting sort of live stream with something corresponding with April, if that's too soon as well, we can hold a virtual event at any point in the year, but wanted to make that resource available if anyone is interested in holding something as a commission for Earth Month.
So you mean that could be possibly something, sorry, you mean that would be something we would do during our public meeting, or is it something separate, held at a separate time?
Depending on the scope and length of what was envisioned, we could either fit it into our meeting or create a separate event utilizing, we could use our departmental Facebook to live stream it like this meeting's being live streamed right now, or hold it on a registration basis, depending on what we had in mind. Where you can also just invite a speaker to next month's event. So if you have an idea of someone that you'd like to speak at the commission meeting as well, you can let me know, and I'm happy to extend that invitation as well.
And Lauren, for a follow-up question, would that be exclusively virtual events that are being considered?
Yeah, so at this point, aside from, the rain barrel pickup will be in person. I'll be at Switchyard handing people their orders, but I think at least for the next month until there's other guidance, that I don't think we'll be holding a public event next month. But I do hope that at some point in the remainder of the year that we'll be able to resume some more in-person interaction.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to follow up on the legislation that Lee discussed, our guest, our public speaker. So let's go ahead and discuss the next steps now, if that's okay. Does anyone have any quick comments or question on what Lee talked about? Any general comments about the legislation? Okay, well, yeah, we'll be sending it out after the meeting. I think the next actionable steps should be for all of us to read it and to try to have, I would say, try to have any questions ready to ask Lee at the next meeting. If you think it's I think that's probably the best. And then he asked us about individually. I think, Lauren, is there a place on that website for us to individually do something as well online, or is it just the letter writing that he wants us to do?
There's two potential avenues. Either you could read it and decide as a personal individual to endorse it, and I'll send out the link to that, or as a group to write a letter of endorsement. And then the third option that he mentioned, which would be a little bit more involved, would be creating a resolution. So I think that depending on, discussion about carbon pricing, and I think that Colin did raise his hand as well. You might have a comment. But those are three potential avenues depending on how the group feels about it and if there's consensus.
So I know earlier, I think maybe during the chair's report, there was a mention that like in the previous meeting, a resolution had been passed because recalling Lee's ask, he had three things. One was endorse as a group and on the website. 2, write letters to Hollingsworth and the 2 senators, and 3, do a formal resolution. So my question is like, how involved is, if we get to vote on doing any of these, including stage 3, how involved is developing a formal resolution? I'm just curious.
Resolution takes a minimum of 2 meetings, so it'll be 1 meeting to introduce it. And any member can submit a resolution for consideration. If there is work that happens in between the meetings, it would be better to call a work session, because if there's more than one of you working on something outside of a meeting, then we just need open door laws so that other people can comment from the public, just as a matter of transparency. So at that second meeting, there would be further discussion and then a vote, and then there would need to be consensus among those present and a quorum to adopt it as a resolution. At that point, it can be considered by council depending on the topic and whether it's something that they're interested in taking up for further consideration. So on this particular one, I mean, I think that since it's in relation to, a federal legislative action, I'm also a member of the Monroe County Environmental Commission. We wrote a letter of support for it and then had people sign it and then send it in. But there wasn't really a clear next step that the, Monroe County Council would take in response to that, since it wouldn't be something that they themselves as a body would be initiating.
Yeah, and just to add to that, just to give you an idea, the resolution we passed in the housing first resolution that we passed in the last meeting was like 2 pages and then 2 more pages of citations. Like that was it. So just to give you an idea of that. I mean, and obviously it wouldn't have, I don't think there's like a minimum or a maximum or anything like that. I think it can be as simple as we want. Okay, so as far as writing a letter and stuff like that, I think if everyone, does anyone here object to the idea of me starting to draft a letter of support and then planning to, kind of be able to show that at the next meeting, and we can maybe discuss it and fill in? Is that something, Lauren, are we allowed to, am I allowed to send something like that out before the next meeting to get people's comments on it or not?
I think it would be better to just have that people have the opportunity to review it and come with questions at the next
That's
meeting.
what I'm thinking
We
too.
have that letter, since it may be too soon for people to have formed an opinion.
Perfect.
on
Okay, so I'll plan to have a
least-
draft to send out before the meeting, the next meeting. Okay, and then the third action that he wants us to do as far as making a resolution, yeah, that's something, I guess if that's something we would want to consider, I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with talking with him after the meeting and figuring out what that might look like. Because I frankly don't know at this point I don't even know what that might mean for our local, what a local resolution like that would even look like. I'd have to ask him, maybe he's got some examples. Okay, so we'll plan to all read that and have feedback. Okay, so does anyone have any more comments on that topic, on the carbon dividend legislation? Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'd like Colin to go first.
Thanks. So I wanted to comment on what I think is a pretty alarming red flag about this bill, which is that it pretty explicitly will bar the EPA, so our National Environmental Protection Agency, from regulating greenhouse gas emissions for the next 10 years. And so I think that this is quite concerning, because regulating GHGs is one of the EPA's primary functions in the age of climate breakdown. The second reason why I think it's concerning is because, according to the world's highest climate scientific body, the International Panel on Climate Change, we have roughly 8 to 10, maybe maximum 10 years to make incredibly large, deep, transformative changes to every aspect of society to reverse the climate crisis, right? The kind of changes that are required now are almost, they like go beyond the World War II mobilization efforts, right? That stand as our greatest reference for like the entire country mobilizing around an issue. So for now, I'm going to be probably opposed to supporting any kind of letter that this commission would write in support of this resolution. I have more comments, some of which I kind of elaborated in that briefing that I shared, but I look forward to discussing this further.
I'll add to that point because I've had experience with this act as well. I met with my congressman in California about this act specifically and asked him about it. And he said something similar, that in the act, there's this rule that the EPA doesn't have to regulate. And I think there's even some things in there that make it so you can't sue businesses that are in the fossil fuel companies. So I think I tried to look into it and read through the bill, but I'm not like a policy expert. So it's almost like we need an expert, if we have any resources, of somebody who's an expert on reading through bills and being able to read through it at a really high detail and understand like what is it actually doing. Because yes, the carbon dividend and the carbon fee and dividend makes sense on the surface. I think we all agree with that, but it's the details of the bill that actually matter. And to Colin's point, the bill is not enough. It should be $100 per ton right now, not 10 years from now. But that's another problem. So yeah, I don't know. Do we have anybody that is an expert on reading through government legislation?
Well, I don't have a response to that question. I may offer the suggestion that perhaps collectively, if we take the opportunity to read through the information that's presented on the website thoroughly to the extent of each our own capabilities, it'd be worthwhile to see if, as a commission, we already have an opinion for or against, because I agree with Colin's remarks. And while I haven't had the time to read the entirety of it yet, I'm already disinclined to support it based on its presentation on the website. So I think it'd be worthwhile to come to individual decisions by the next meeting first to see if we need to take next steps in further investigation.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, legislation. Sorry. Yeah, I was. Go ahead, Christy.
Well, and I don't know if this is like, I don't want to appropriate to like put this on a burden, but one thing I'll be curious about if I kind of do this idea of independent research on this bill, if during, looking at like advantages or disadvantages of it, and there's other bills mentioned that are more effective. I think my only concern is that if we were to not support this bill or like kind of follow up on this endorsement and instead do nothing, then like, to me, that's almost worse in some way. So if there's another bill or something that is appropriate for us to endorse in lieu of this one, I would be interested in that.
I agree. And if we decide not to endorse it, I think we definitely need to have very specific, reasons and suggestions on what we think we would endorse, or maybe how it could be changed that we would endorse it in the future. Mm-hmm. And I agree. I mean, it seems like all legislation, starts out, I like to think, innocent enough, and then it ends up, stuffed with pork by the end of the whole political process. And so we just don't know where this legislation has been, frankly, and who's been adding things to it. So yeah, I really appreciate your adding what you already know about this legislation to both Colin and Alicia. Thank you guys for sharing those, what you think of as potential red flags that we all should be looking for and thinking about. Okay, so any other new business?
I'm just kind of curious because I'm new, like kind of how you guys have like, what have you guys been doing in the past? And maybe, I don't want to like rehash if, things, if you've tried things before and it didn't
Mhm.
work, like kind of
Oh,
where
sure.
you guys at right now? And like, where do you see like a need for things to happen now?
Well, I'm not going to tell you too much of where I think the needs are for now, because I really don't want to bias that, and I want you guys to I really want you guys to add your own ideas to that part. But as far as like what the commission has accomplished, I've been on the commission for 2 years now, just going into 3 years, and we've been working. Well, some of the previous people on the commission were very good and frankly professionals at gathering data for tracking for sustainability targets. And so that was a major part of the commission's efforts for about, for a year or so. And then waste reduction has gotten more important to people on the commission. We've also had a green business certification working group that it was started, and then 2 or 3 people the people who started it left the commission, and then other people kind of picked it up, and then it sort of just ended up with no owner, no one who really wanted to take that on. So then we've also done sustainable business awards. So that's something that we can, probably consider doing again this year. So that's where we find businesses that we decide we want to recognize, who we think are setting an example as, we had several categories for the awards. Do you remember off the top of your head? Does anyone remember off the top of their heads, what they are?
The 3 categories in the past were an individual community member that had shown a special commitment to sustainability in the past year. There was a nonprofit category and then a business category. So I think the last time that they were awarded, like Sycamore Lane Trust got one, and I don't remember the other awardees. But that's been a great way to get engagement from other members of the community around recognizing things that have happened in the last year.
I think they gave it to Jeff Meese at One World, the business, and the individual. I think the individual was from the Sustainable Living Center. The guy who, what's his name? He used to be on this commission. Didn't he get it? I don't remember. Yeah, I don't
Stephen
remember.
Hale.
Huh?
Said it might be Stephen Hale.
Maybe. But yeah, we've done that. And what am I missing? What am I skipping over?
I think one important role that the commission is
advised on climate action.
Yeah. Advising on policies either that are going in front of council or being considered by council, or just general administrative policy documents. So in the past, the commission helped with, previous drafts of important sustainability and climate plans and components of that plan. And then the other side of that is also community outreach. So as members of the community, being able to bring, new announcements, and then also mentioning items of concern around the topics of sustainability that you'd like to discuss among the commission, and also sometimes elevate to council and other bodies for consideration. So we have had a working group in the past that has looked specifically on policies. So what kind of, ordinances or legislation is in front of council that the commission might want to comment on or provide a group consensus opinion about. So it doesn't need to be a full resolution, but so just sort of like a letter of support or concern, depending on the topic and how that relates to sustainability and the charge of the commission. So some more about, and I think for those of you that are new, also our founding resolution is in the Google Drive folder as well. And if you have any questions about the commission or ideas, also feel free at any point in between meetings to reach out to me as well.
And same here. Feel free to reach out to me at any time.
And then just so that I understand, so this is obviously for the city of Bloomington, this commission, and you guys advise the, is it the city council? That's what it's called, that runs the Bloomington. And then what about the county? What's at the county level?
The county has their own commissions. Yeah, Lauren, you probably know exactly what they are.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Bloomington Commission on Sustainability advises both the administrations, the mayor's office and the council. So there's seats that were appointed by both mayor and city council, and the 4 new members represent some of each. And then for the county, it's a smaller number of seats, but that group advises the county council of commissioners. So sometimes different things coming to either body. For the county commission, there was some discussion about logging near Lake Monroe, so stuff that's outside of definitely the jurisdictional boundary of Bloomington, but is of concern generally environmentally to residents in the county.
So is that something this group would, like, if we think of something that that pertains to the county level, is that something this group would take to the county level, or is it just?
Yeah, so that's the idea, and of having Nolan have a statutory seat. So the president of the county commission is a member of this board, and so that creates synergy between the two. Oftentimes we also have folks from other city commissions come and either present or comment. So there's very specific commissions like the tree commission, where we try to keep in touch with what is happening, and if it's relevant, work together on some items.
Yeah, I just would suggest to, especially to the new members, look over our mission, and as far as the working groups, and, look over the mission and just really, think about what are you here for? What do you really want to work on? Let's make it a working group. Hopefully some of our ideas will be somewhat similar, and we can combine some of our ideas and have working groups where we can work on what we're passionate about and get things done.
Alicia, I do want to mention to your point as well, within the Bloomington Code, section 2.12.100, that defines the Commission on Sustainability. Section 8, powers and duties, point E, says to advise, consult, and cooperate with other agency boards and commissions at the city of Bloomington, the state, and other local governments, industries, other states, interstate, essentially everyone. So it seems reasonable that we could also get involved with them.
Cool. Yeah, the place when I was in California, I was advising at the county level, and it kind of seems like a lot of problems end up being at the county level. I mean, it's the whole country, but a lot of problems end up being county problems, not just individual city problems. So yeah, I just maybe I'll think about it in those terms. And I also, I have like a bazillion ideas already, but I tend to find that it's helpful to have like a kind of a plan, or like maybe a roadmap or something where everybody agrees on these are the things that we all care about and these are the things we want to work on, because it doesn't really do much to just have a bunch of ideas. So yeah, I'm just wondering, I don't know what's the best way to go through ideas. Like, should we just do like a brainstorming session at some point or something?
I would suggest that we kind of think about it before the next meeting, and then plan at the next meeting to hash it out and try to agree on, a reasonable number of topics. Okay. If that sounds good with everyone.
Yeah, so basically come to the next meeting with maybe a group of several just ideas of either project.
Maybe each of us can try to think of 1 or 2 ideas.
Yeah, right. That's worked most effectively in the past is if the topic is broad enough that that there's plenty of room for investigation, but also something that multiple members are interested in working on. So because everyone's volunteering their time, if it's something that you can partner with it, 2 other members, then that helps move things forward in between meetings as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that we always tried to think about, or I always try to think about, is like what things can have a bigger impact. Just because there's things, there's a million things that need to happen, and some things are low impact and some things are huge. And I kind of like to try to prioritize for myself, like what are the actions that are going to bring the most change. And again, that usually comes back to a county level, it comes back to policies usually. It's like changes, like big changes need to happen. And I mean, that's for me personally, what I'm most interested in is trying to accomplish like large changes, because we all know they need to happen.
I agree that high impact should be one of our selecting factors that we consider when selecting our working groups.
Yeah.
And also topics that we're interested in doing,
Sure,
as Lauren mentioned, since we're all volunteering here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Great. All right. Anything else on that topic of working groups? Okay, thank you. And moving on to new business. Wait, were we already on new business?
I think
I got
so.
confused.
Maybe.
Yeah,
I thought we were on new business.
we are.
Okay.
We're
Great.
towards
Does
the end
anyone
of
have
the.
any other sorry.
I was just gonna say we're running up towards the end of when we typically adjourn. So if anyone else had it for the good of the order, now would be a good time to mention it.
I just wanted to say I jumped on late. I'm Jarrett. I'm a commission member. I had an interview, so sorry I wasn't here at the beginning. But I just wanted to say welcome to all of the new members. I really look forward to working with all of you. So it's great to see so many new faces.
Thanks, Jarrett. I'm not sure if you missed it, but we are going to be taking votes on filling the leadership roles at the next meeting. So please be thinking if you want to run. Okay. Okay, any other new business before we adjourn?
I'd like to make a good of the order statement as well for Lauren's solicitation, just to say that it's nice to be new and officially a member of this committee or commission rather, and to say thank you to the others who are new and joining as well, and to those who have been working on it previously. I look forward to getting things done.
Great, thank you, Joseph. Okay, if we don't have anything else, then would anyone like to move to adjourn?
I do move that we adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you in a month. Take care.
Thanks all.
Bye.